Russell laughed at her. "Don't let's look so far ahead as that," he said. "We don't need to be already thinking of the cemetery, do we?" "I didn't," she said, shaking her head. "Our summer evenings will be over before then, Mr. Russell." "Why?" he asked. "Good heavens!" she said. "There's laconic eloquence! Almost a proposal in a single word. Never mind, I shan't hold you to it, but to answer you, well, I'm always looking ahead, and somehow I usually see about how things are coming out." "Yes," he said. "I suppose most of us do. At least it seems as if we did, because we so seldom feel surprised by the way they do come out. But maybe that's only because life isn't like a play in a theatre, and most things come about so gradually we get used to them." "No, I'm sure I can see quite a long way ahead," she insisted, gravely. "And it doesn't seem to me as if our summer evenings could last very long. Something'll interfere. Somebody will, I mean. They'll say something." "What if they do?" She moved her shoulders in a little apprehensive shiver. "It'll change you," she said. "I'm just sure something spiteful's going to happen to me. You'll feel differently about things." "Now isn't that an idea!" he exclaimed. "It will," she insisted. "I know something spiteful's going to happen." "You seem possessed by a notion not a bit flattering to me," he remarked. "Oh, but isn't it? That's just what it is. Why isn't it?" "Because it implies that I'm made of such soft material the slightest breeze will mess me all up. I'm not so like that as I evidently appear, and if it's true that we're afraid other people will do the things we'd most be likely to do ourselves, it seems to me that I ought to be the one to be afraid. I ought to be afraid that somebody may say something about me to you that will make you believe I'm a professional forger." "No, we both know they won't," she said. "We both know you're the sort of person everybody in the world says nice things about." She lifted her hand to silence him as he laughed about this. "Oh, of course you are. I think perhaps you're a little flirtatious. Most quiet men have that one sly way with them. Oh, yes, they do. But you happen to be the kind of man everybody loves to praise. And if you weren't, I shouldn't hear anything terrible about you. I told you I was unpopular. I don't see anybody at all any more. The only man except you who's been to see me in a month is that fearful little fat Frank Dowling, and I sent word to him I wasn't home. Nobody would tell me of your wickedness, you see." "Then let me break some news to you," Russell said. "Nobody would tell me of yours, either. Nobody's even mentioned you to me." She burlesqued a cry of anguish. "That IS obscurity! I suppose I'm too apt to forget that they say the population's about 500,000 nowadays. There are other people to talk about, you feel, then?" "None that I want to," he said. "But I should think the size of the place might relieve your mind of what seems to insist on burdening it. Besides, I'd rather you thought of me a better man than you do." "What kind of a man do I think you are?" "The kind affected by what's said about people instead of by what they do themselves." "Aren't you?" "No, I'm not," he said. "If you want our summer evenings to be over, you'll have to drive me away yourself." "Nobody else could?" "No." She was silent, leaning forward with her elbows on her knees and her clasped hands against her lips. Then, not moving, she said softly, "Well, I won't." She was silent again, and he said nothing, but looked at her, seeming to be content with looking. Her attitude was one only a graceful person should assume, but she was graceful, and in the wan light, which made a prettily shaped mist of her, she had beauty. Perhaps it was beauty of the hour, and of the love scene almost made into form by what they had both just said, but she had it. And though beauty of the hour passes, he who sees it will long remember it, and the hour when it came. "What are you thinking of?" he asked. She leaned back in her chair and did not answer at once. Then she said, "I don't know. I doubt if I was thinking of anything. It seems to me I wasn't. I think I was just sort of being sadly happy just then." "Were you? Was it sadly, too?" "Don't you know?" she said. "It seems to me that only little children can be just happily happy. I think when we get older our happiest moments are like the one I had just then. It's as if we heard strains of minor music running through them. Oh, so sweet, but oh, so sad." "But what makes it sad for you?" "I don't know," she said, in a lighter tone. "Perhaps it's a kind of useless foreboding I seem to have pretty often. It may be that, or it may be poor papa." "You are a funny, delightful girl, though," Russell laughed, "when your father's so well again that he goes out walking in the evenings." "He does too much walking," Alice said. "Too much altogether, over at his new plant. But there isn't any stopping him." She laughed and shook her head. "When a man gets an ambition to be a multimillionaire, his family doesn't appear to have much weight with him. He'll walk all he wants to in spite of them." "I suppose so," Russell said, absently. Then he leaned forward. "I wish I could understand better why you were sadly happy." Meanwhile, as Alice shed what further light she could on this point, the man ambitious to be a multimillionaire was indeed walking too much for his own good. He had gone to bed, hoping to sleep well and rise early for a long day's work, but he could not rest; and now, in his nightgown and slippers, he was pacing the floor of his room. "I wish I did know," he thought, over and over. "I do wish I knew how he feels about it." End of chapter 17.